Hi, I'm Chris Sarandon, and welcome to Cooking by Heart, where we revisit the vivid memories of the food we grew up with.
I couldn't believe the tastes and the flavors.
Lydia Bastianich. Hi, Chris. Susan Sarandon.
And the people and the stories attached to that time in our lives.
I was the one sort of like mommy dearest.
He'd order one side of the menu and eat that. And then when he was finished eating that, he'd order the other side of the menu and eat all of that. He emptied the kitchen.
My guest today is fellow West Virginia native, James Beard Award-winning chef, Paul Smith. After graduating from high school in Charleston, West Virginia, Chef Smith formally trained at New York's prestigious Culinary Institute of America, where he graduated with honors. And he continued his training at CIA's Greystone campus in Napa Valley, California, where he studied pastries and wine, sounds like a wonderful combination, and where he graduated as valedictorian of his class. Paul previously worked around the country, from the Ritz-Carlton Resort in Naples, Florida, to the world-renowned Biltmore Estates in Asheville, North Carolina. Taking the tastes and techniques of every stop along his culinary journey, he longed to return to his roots and tell those culinary stories through the traditions and the flavors of Appalachia. Today, he has multiple restaurants in Charleston, West Virginia's capital, which have quickly gained a reputation as the state's premier dining destinations. Chef Paul was named West Virginian of the Year in 2023 and has twice been nominated for the prestigious James Beard Award as Best Chef of the Southeast. And on June 10th, 2024, he was honored by the James Beard Foundation in a ceremony in Chicago and became West Virginia's very first James Beard Award-winning winner. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to have as my guest, Chef Paul Smith. Hi, Paul.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you. Obviously, as the log line of the show suggests, we talk very specifically about growing up, and we both grew up in essentially the same area. You were born in Morgantown, West Virginia?
Born in Morgantown.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you went to college.
That's right. West Virginia University. Here it is, folks. All right. At any rate, so the family background?
Family background, just like a lot of West Virginians, my great-grandfather came over to work in the coal mines. So migrated here from Italy. His last name was Pesce, and changed it to Fish so he could get a job in the mines.
Interesting.
Always, food was a part of our family. So my grandfather, Joe, who taught me how to cook, had 9 brothers and sisters.
Whoa.
So every weekend, we traveled from here in Charleston up to that Gully Bridge, Fayetteville
Which
area.
is close downtown, closer to my
really,
hometown of Beckley. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right over the mountain.
I'm just going to interject 1 second, provide a little history here. I think a lot of people don't really realize that many of the laborers who provided the kind of economic engine for this country, be it the coal mines or whatever it was, auto industry, a lot of them immigrated from not just Northern Europe, but also a lot of them came from Southern Europe, from Italy, from Central Europe, from Poland. Because I remember growing up very specifically, a lot of the minor customers in my dad's restaurant were with Italian last names.
Yeah.
And my best friend still in this world is, the last name is Massinopol, Mike Massinopol. And Mike's dad was in the mining supply business.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. West Virginia is I think, probably one of the most hospitable, cultures that there is. So, we came over, my grandfather taught me how to cook. He was working at Alloy, which was a chemical plant that processed the coal.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Friday nights, he would do Italian nights at the Glen Ferris Inn. So from the time that I was, basically from the time I could stand, probably, a couple years old, I was standing on the milk crate. I was stirring the sauce. So,
how great.
So Grandpa could pour a little coffee, which oddly enough looked a lot like Jack Daniels.
All right.
And that's where the story begins. That's where my love of food it really began was family, a large Italian family. My mom had 4 sisters, literally 30 to 40 of us every weekend, getting together, sitting around the table, not a quiet moment, but always smelled like freshly baked bread and tomatoes and peppers and sausage. And it was just, it reminds me of walking out into the restaurant now here. And that's what we say here is, come into our home. Our restaurant, 1010 Bridge is just like our home. Welcome, come in, let's sit down. We'll get to know each other over a meal, and then we'll walk you to the door and invite you to come back.
Ah, sounds wonderful. Now, who was the main cook at home other than, say, your grandfather? Was it your mom?
Well, my mom, she had me in law school when she was at WVU Law.
Oh, wow.
And I think, so I had both parents working all the time. So, my dad was a teacher and a coach at both our high school and then matriculated to University of Charleston and then to West Virginia Tech. Both of them are West Virginia Tech grads. So really, my brother and I kind of fended for ourselves. When we would come home from the whatever sporting event we were a part of, we would kind of, thank goodness we didn't burn the house down.
Right.
But we were cooking for ourselves. Mom and dad both did cook. Dad's specialty obviously is pinto beans and cornbread. And then mom would do some Italian stuff on the weekends. But really, we really learned kind of by watching my grandfather on the weekends and my grandmother.
Right.
She was Scotch Irish. And so, there was a lot of cooking going on the weekends. And so that's, again, where the love started.
What were the typical dishes that they cooked?
Oh, it was, so what we grew, it was tomatoes, peppers.
So there was a garden.
There was a garden. There was a garden out back. And nowadays, us chefs, we talk about things like fermentation. We talk about things like farm to table. We talk about these cool things that we always did in Appalachia and in West Virginia. We did it out of necessity.
Right.
We hunted, venison, and killed it because we had to have it for the year. I didn't grow up, even though my mom was an attorney, she kind of broke that glass ceiling. She was the first woman partner in her large law firm.
Yeah, especially for her generation. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is 100% right. Absolutely. And so what I really learned above everything was that food really what brought the family together. And I learned more importantly, hard work.
Well, you're stating two of the great themes of the show, by the way, this podcast, which is, first of all, that food is community, that it's what binds us as we grow up. Now, did you had one sibling or more?
Yeah, one younger, my brother Matthew. We both went to Virginia Tech to play soccer. I lasted about a month in Division I soccer. He did all 4 years and graduated with honors in architecture. He lives in San Diego now. 2 beautiful kids, beautiful wife. Living the dream, and I'm doing this, which is great. He got the looks and the athletic ability. Luckily I could cook.
Yeah. Now, what was the conversation like around the dinner table when you were all together?
Oh gosh, around the dinner table, it was just like normal. It was what makes you tick. It was how was your day. It was kind of getting back to know each other on a daily basis because everybody's traveling in their own directions. With both of us playing sports, and I think that nowadays that is a little bit lost.
Yeah.
If one good thing came out of COVID, if there was one silver lining, I think it was that families got back to that family dynamic. They got back to, for better or worse, hanging out with each other, cooking, sitting around the table, enjoying each other's company, or not,
right?
And sitting around a meal And, obviously big things are, probably made, we probably did some sourdough bread and that kind of stuff. But, we opened our restaurants in June and July of 2020. So right in the middle, of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was scary. It was, no one ever said I was the most intelligent in the world. And so I actually sold my home and moved in with my parents at 45 in order to make sure that we didn't have to lay anybody off and make sure that I was taking care of our family, which is my restaurant family. And I think that it really, if I look at it in hindsight, I think that COVID helped us here at 1010 Bridge define ourselves. We had to control everything. We were reservation only in the beginning, and we're reservation not necessarily only now, but we almost have to be. We have a 45-seat restaurant. That thank you for mentioning. Our team is wonderful, and we have been fortunate enough to represent West Virginia and myself in the James Beard Award and won this year, first West Virginian ever. And it really does take a village to do this. And it's wonderful for me to see my community, which is not only Charleston and not only here at 1010 and at the pitch, but also West Virginia, just really getting behind what we're doing, showing support. And you hit it right on the head. I mean, it's all about community.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you and your brother, I'm interested that you mentioned that when you guys came home, both your parents were working. What did you guys do for food when you came home?
Yeah, I mean, it was back then, it was buzz buttered steaks. If you grew up in southern West Virginia.
Explain a buzz buttered steak.
You had a buzz buttered steak.
Please explain.
So a buzz buttered steak is basically a cube steak, a frozen cube steak with a pat of butter that is frozen to it. So so you basically throw it in the pan, butter side up or butter side down. That's the age old debate.
Right.
And then, you just cook it and then, either eat it with a little bit of bread, or we did a little bit of buttered noodles and pasta because the Italian family, but that or we had pepperoni rolls laying around
now
because the pepperoni roll is the West Virginia street food.
The signature street food of West Virginia. Right. Can you tell my audience, describe to them what a pepperoni roll is and how they're created?
So a pepperoni roll started, I think, just like we said at the beginning of this conversation. Italian Americans that came over to work in the mines needed something to take down into the mines that was substantial, that was also able to be kept at room temperature and was portable. So they took another age-old debate is stick versus sliced pepperoni, wrapped it in fresh dough and baked it. So it's basically like a roll or a pizza dough, almost like almost like a miniature calzone, and you could put cheese or not. Normally they didn't because you had to take it down in the mines, and then it's a handheld street food. So, I mean, gosh, when I left Charleston and drove to New York City or New York Poughkeepsie for culinary school, I stopped in Pennsylvania for gas, And I said, hey, do you guys have pepperoni rolls? Because every gas station in West Virginia has a pepperoni roll bag right next to the point of sale. So you just grab a couple, you jump in your car, you get a cup of coffee, and you roll. And they looked at me like I had three heads. They were like, what the hell's a pepperoni roll?
So this came from originally came from the Italian tradition of the miners taking it down with them. And it became a kind of ubiquitous snack for everybody in the state.
Absolutely. It did. Yep. And I think that there also was a debate of where it started, where the commercial version started. And people say Country Club Bakery, in that Clarksburg, that Clarksburg area, which, if you go all the way back, I think West Virginia had the largest Italian population at one time outside of Italy.
Wow.
So we had the Italian consulate, or the Italians, they lived here
Yeah.
and came here to work, and so that's, I think, a lot of where, again, my love of food, my knowledge of food, and there are a ton of wonderful Italian restaurants around West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you were at home, did the family ever go out to eat?
Oh yeah. Well, Friday nights were the the sit down Pizza Hut in St. Albans.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a sit down Pizza Hut. That we grew up not wealthy. We weren't poor, but we would go out to dinner once a week, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the sit down Pizza Hut. You had the salad bar, you had the Galaga and Miss Pac-Man, you had the all you can drink soda for the kids, so we got all hopped up on sugar and Coca-Cola, and,
Right.
and and ate our pizza and went home. I think dining has changed so much since I grew up. I mean, I've been in this business now 30 years, and when I started in it, we weren't the rock stars that we
Right.
are now.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Food Network and
Yep.
Emerald and Wolfgang Puck and these chefs that have paved the way to really educate and up the ante for all of us. And,
Yep.
and now the Gordon Ramsays and the Bobby Flays and the Guy Fieri's and all of that is just, food is mainstream.
Yep.
And also
Very much so.
we're foodies now. We go out, we travel for dinner. We plan our weeks, we plan our days around food, and
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love it. And it really it's helped here at 1010, but it's also just, I love food, and I love the ingredients, and I love, supporting our local farmers. I love supporting our community. And I think beyond the love of food is the love of hospitality. And I think
Yep.
that goes all the way back to family, that goes all the way
Yep.
back to Boomer and those, 30 or 40, person gatherings every weekend. It just makes me feel comfortable, and it makes me happy inside to create an experience for my guests that are coming into our restaurant.
Now, there's a quote of yours that I just love. Appalachia has always been about food, music, and stories.
Yeah.
This
Yep.
This one is mine. This is your story.
This is.
Tell me a little bit about your thoughts about that synthesis of what is unique about Appalachia and how you have then transferred it into your restaurants.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to travel the country. Florida twice, Asheville, North Carolina, New York a couple times, Napa Valley, and I loved it and needed it to get out and learn. But what I was missing was home. I was missing the people of Appalachia. I was missing that comfort. I was missing the story. I was creating my own story, but my country road was always, just like John Denver said, my country road was always leading me back here, and being able to tell my story of my travels and put it through, put my thoughts and my love on the plate. And, we think about all those things when you think about the restaurant. You think about the music, you think about the story, you think about how I'm telling the story of how I grew up. And I think I'm dispelling a lot of myths and a lot of negativity around West Virginia. When you hear West Virginia, you think about maybe, hillbillies, maybe redneck, maybe a little, maybe poverty, maybe not necessarily the most educated. And what I'm trying to do is show not only our area that we don't have to settle, but that I'm showing the country, come to West Virginia, experience our story, experience our food and sit down and really get to know each other as people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once people come to West Virginia, it is, people don't want to leave. The hospitality is there, so I'm telling my story through the thing that I know, which is my art form, which is my food is my medium.
Right. How has that specifically affected the way you cook? That is, the dishes that you prepare. Are there things about Appalachian food and or the things that grow there that you utilize in the restaurant?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Appalachia is probably the most biodiverse agriculture area in the country. You talk about ramps.
Yep.
Ramps are basically a wild onion that is kind of a cross between garlic and onion. It's got a very short growing season, about a month and a half. We have people that go out and forage for us. We come in, we bring it in, and we do the things that our families have always done. We ferment, we pickle, we can, we jar, we make things out of what we have at our fingertips. And so my cooking is let the ingredients be the ingredients. Add a little bit of salt and pepper, probably 2 heaping tablespoons full of love, and just literally let the ingredients be the ingredients. We try to buy as local as possible. Proteins,
right?
We definitely buy as local as we can and as seasonal as we can. The ingredients that are the produce, and then we also try to extend that out by doing things like ramp pesto that we have on our menu all year, because we get 500 pounds of ramps. We turn the greens into pesto. We pickle the bulbs, and we do all of these things that we have always done here in Appalachia. So it's utilizing what we have, utilizing what is around us, and letting the ingredients be the ingredients, and then telling our story through that. And, we all kind of have this moment where our careers and our my ethos kind of started. And it was really when I moved from New York to California.
Mm-hmm.
I'm classically French trained. Like, I can drown things in butter and beurre blanc and hollandaise and make them taste absolutely delicious. But when I went out to California, that's when I realized, everything was pretty much farm to table out there as well. And it really reminded me of Appalachia. It was grab the most seasonal ingredients, the bay leaf right off the bay tree, the kumquats that are sitting right there, the berries off the vine, the grapes.
And in season. In season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because, we did a live show with Alice Waters the end of this past season. And Alice, talked extensively about the transformation of food in America by, as much specifically as what Chez Panisse did, which with Alice's restaurant, which was to only source from local farms and only cook what was available at that time of year, so that everything was fresh. And literally, I mean, she talks about this farmer that they work with, who her father was vetting farms all over the area around Berkeley, and he went to this one farm, and the place looked like it was a mess. There were weeds everywhere, there were flowers everywhere, and there were no rows. And her dad said to the farmer, well, what's going on here? I can't see anything. The guy said, hold on. He went over and he pulled a carrot out of an area where lots of different things were growing. And he said, this is a biodiverse carrot, taste it. And her father flipped and said, this is where we're buying from now on.
Yeah.
And they've established that relationship, and it's been there ever since.
Oh gosh. And Alice Waters pretty much single-handedly changed how we look at food, and with the slow food movement and things, she is a pioneer, and she is someone that I look up to, and that I read her book. I was obviously out there. I went down there. I couldn't get into a restaurant, but I hung out back, and that's what you do as a young chef. Or a young culinarian, or just a young sponge, is you try to be around the people like her, like Hiro Sone, who was a wonderful Japanese chef that was French trained in Napa Valley, Michel Carnoux, who was my chef that taught me at Farniente Winery, and people like Alice Waters. And, I am just trying to carry on and add a little spoke in the wheel that they have created. You people like Michael Mina still out in that area that are really doing things. And what we're trying to do here is change a little bit of the dynamic in the kitchen. So I think that my troubles and some of my story has been pretty well documented and I think a lot of our, struggles with addiction. I am an alcoholic. I haven't had a drink in 4 years.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. But the things that we've always done in the restaurant industry, people say work hard, play hard. Yeah, absolutely. We get off late. We go straight to the bar. We blow off some steam. But what also I realized after kind of removing myself from it is we are always thinking about others. We're always worried about how you enjoy the food, how you're enjoying the experience. And I think sometimes we forget about ourselves, and we forget about our mental health, and we forget about our issues. And, we're constantly on the go. I'm working 100, 120 hours a week.
That's crazy.
I don't feel like I'm working now.
Yes.
Like, I love it. I absolutely love it. But what I'm doing is trying to set an example like Alice Waters and changing a little bit of that perception. Like, we don't do shift drinks here. We talk about mental health. We have a very open door policy. We allow for pretty much, if you are having trouble, I've got a chef right now that we put in rehabilitation. He needed it. He came to us and said that, and we all need to, pay attention to ourselves. And I think also ask hard questions about our friends and our coworkers. Like, hey, are you doing okay? Thank goodness that my wife and my family realized that I needed help, along with my boss from my previous job. And, or I honestly wouldn't be here. And I know I wouldn't be here as talking to you as a James Beard Award winner, as a mentor, as a leader and a pillar of my community. All of these things really kind of fell into place with me taking control
of your life,
of my life.
And
also I think trying to teach others that it's okay to be sad, but we've got to talk about it. We've got to get help.
You're touching on something that I wanted to ask you about anyway, which is also that the people who work for you, you have a way of letting them continue their careers. Absolutely. By supporting them through education.
Absolutely.
What's that about?
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
So we a couple local culinary schools in the area I partner with. I mentor students there, but most importantly, we are so into developing our team that we pay for their education. We pay for them to go to culinary school or front of the house management if they want to. If that's something
if they want to be in
the
hospitality business. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I want to develop, just like a good coach that I had growing up, just like good mentors that I had, I want to make sure that I'm not just developing good cooks in the kitchen, but also good people. And we're also helping to change their lives. So, we do things here like, hey, would you like today, we've got wine training. And it's not to drink the wine, because we don't allow people to drink, and we drink, we swish, we spit. It's about the education. This is our room here, right here where I'm sitting right now. This is our living room. And it's not very often that we get to be the smartest people in the room. But in our room, at whatever restaurant that I'm a part of, we have to be the smartest people in that room. And my job is to give my team the resources and the education that they need to feel confident to be the smartest people in the room. One of my teammates, she the other day said, I absolutely love working here because people treat me different. People treat me I've been in this business for, 20 years, she said. And she said, when I walk down the street, people treat me different. They treat me like an equal and not like I'm the server that gave them a great meal. And to me, that's everything. It's respect. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's important in everybody's life. Now,
absolutely.
One of the things that strikes me about your philosophy of integrating the stories of Appalachia and the food of Appalachia is an experience that I had when I was at college at West Virginia University. I took a course that just on a whim, because it was maybe a lot of the folks out there who were in college, you were looking for an easy A. You were looking for a class that all you had to do was attend, and you got an A, right? And this one was called 101 Scottish and Irish Ballads, and it was taught by a guy named Patrick Gaynor, who was a professor at West Virginia, very sort of eccentric kind of, his hair was all, so he looked like Albert Einstein without a mustache. And Professor Gaynor would travel around the state with a tape recorder, which at the time probably weighed 50 pounds. Right. And he would go into homes in the rural areas of Appalachia, and he would record people singing songs that had been passed down to them by their parents, who had been passed down to them by their parents, and so on and so forth. Right. And they were songs that specifically came from Scotland and Ireland, but they were ubiquitous in the sense that they were told everywhere the same way. Yeah. So that, for instance, we would look at a book, a song that was traced back to a Norse tale from the 10th century or whatever. And this guy's sitting there singing into Gaynor's tape recorder, right? And he's singing the words that are on this page from the book. That had been passed down for 1,000 years, right? And purely oral tradition. Well, that's part of what I think we're talking about here when we talk about the richness of the culture of West Virginia and similar rural areas in this country, a lot of which has been homogenized by consumer culture in general. Yes. By advertising, by making food a commodity rather than a pleasure and a way of sharing with others. Absolutely. Yeah. And food, music, and stories, right? They all, the songs are passed down. The recipes are passed down. The cast iron skillets are passed down. Yep. It's all of that love that you can hear, you can taste, and you can feel are all in those. Yep. I'm still using here at the restaurant, my grandfather's cast iron skillet. And you can literally taste the love in it. Great. To sear our scallops and to sear our beef and to really, again, it's about tradition. Yep. It's about giving that praise and being proud of where you come from. And I could wherever not you're be from. More proud of where we come from, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. And how we got here, too. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we've got to think about that, right? Yep. That's, who worked hard before us to give us and to allow us to have what we have. Absolutely. You just made me think of your iron skillet, just made me think of a chef's knife that I have that I've had for maybe 60 years. When I was a young guy and just, I worked in my dad's restaurant, so it didn't come from there. But when I went out on my own, I had to have a knife. And luckily, I picked up a knife with a wooden handle that was a, great chef's knife. And I still have that knife. I still use it every day. And my son, whenever he comes, he's a trained chef as well. He trained at the FCI in New York. And And he's not in the food business, but ultimately wants to get back into it. But at any rate, whenever he comes, that's the knife he wants to use.
Smart.
Because it has history in it. It has life in it. And it's not just about me. It's about what that knife has been through. Yeah. And the fact that the wooden handle is absorbed. It's not Absolutely. Plastic.
It's absorbed that knowledge and that love, and it almost kind of cuts itself, right? You know, it's like when you slice a little bit more true because you're using that knife, and you also respect it, you know, and that's it. That is such a great story. I love that.
Yeah. Now, the one question that I ask everyone at the conclusion of our conversation is the following: that if there's one memory from when you were a boy, one food memory that when you are now in a situation where there's a smell or a taste that elicits or takes you back, what is that? What is that?
Yeah, bread.
Yeah?
My earliest memories it's the smell of bread. I mean, there isn't anything that takes me back, and I think takes us back like a smell.
No.
You know, fresh cut grass or something like that. But mine's bread. My grandfather baked fresh Italian bread almost daily. And he after he was a little too old to kind of be in the kitchen on Fridays and Saturdays, he still baked bread in Charlton Heights at the little Quick Mart there. And, you know, unfortunately, like, I didn't get his recipes because by the time I got home from culinary school, he was already kind of in the throes of dementia. And, you know, back then it was a handful of this and a handful of this and a little bit of this. And it was the love that came out. And you didn't follow a recipe like you do when you're baking. I mean, baking is about science and recipes. But that is what I think about. That is probably it's my happy place. You know, when I smell fresh baked bread, it takes me back to Grandpa Joe and me just kind of, you know, flour all over me and him, you know, just,
right.
You know, him and him and his, you know, his Italian, you know, the chest hair hanging out, and he's got the, you know, he's got the guinea tea on, you know, he's got the always in slacks, pleated slacks, never seemed to get dirty, but was always working really hard. And that's what I remember was, you know, I remember that. I remember the feeling of that. I remember the love that I felt from him just when I tasted that bread, and you break it open and the aroma. Theme. Oh my goodness, it is everything, and that is what I'm trying to do here, is to spread that love that I was given unconditionally through food, and that is what we are trying to do here, is spread that and support our community, and also, you know, raise up West Virginia, try to be a little bit of the water in this rising tide that is West Virginia, and surround myself with people like yourself that are making us all better. So I truly appreciate you having me on today and taking the time and just having this podcast to spread the love of food and the good word. It's absolutely wonderful, and I'm so proud.
Well, Chef Paul Smith, I can't thank you enough for being my guest on Cooking by Heart, and I look forward to eating in your restaurant.
Well, I look forward to hosting you, and it would be my honor. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Chef Paul Smith, thank you very much. This has been Cooking by Heart.